Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your sun in Libra and your moon in Taurus. These two signs form what is called an inconjunction. This means that it's an angle of 150 degrees, the two signs from each other, and that is considered an awkward angle. Now, in order for something to be an official inconjunction, the two planets have to have a certain degree span at the max. A lot of times it'll be 10 degrees, but sometimes it varies. So I always tell people to look at the natal chart. I use Astro.com and they provide an aspects table. Not all of the sites seem to do that, and so it's very handy dandy. But anyway, an inconjunction is said to be very incompatible in terms of what the two signs and the elements that they represent, how they mesh. And it's almost like they don't mesh because it's like trying to fit a square peg, with a round hole. I was going to say in a round hole, but you know what I mean. It's like it just doesn't fit. But we still get these combinations. I have my sun in Sagittarius and I have Taurus rising. This is another example of that. And it's just considered very weird. And what will typically happen in my experience of having this particular inconjunction is that the person tends to maybe disavow a certain aspect of themselves in favor of the other one because they can't really integrate it. It's just like they're so disparate, they're so different that it's hard to find common ground. I personally believe, though, that a lot of these inconjunctions actually do have common ground. And so I'm not one of those people that is a fundamentalist when it comes to astrology. I feel like you never say never about anything. And in the case of Libra and Taurus, one of the things of areas of common ground is in the area of having the rulership of Venus. Both of these signs are ruled by Venus, so they're naturally going to have certain things in common. And that is a love of beauty, a love of art, and a love of nice things, maybe like a little bit of a materialistic side to themselves because they like nice things. And so let's talk about how this can manifest. Well, one thing I wanted to say is looking at the elements of each of these signs. So we have Libra as an air sign, and that's the intellect. That's about mental constructs. Taurus is an earth sign. It's about tangible things. Thoughts are not tangible. So a person who is an air sign tends to have a lot of abstract ideas. And the Taurus energy is much more practical. And so the person may have a part of themselves that's a little bit unrealistic and out of touch with, I was going to say out of touch with reality, but really I mean out of touch with the viability of something. And then you have this practical energy. And maybe it depends on the circumstances, but remember that the Taurus energy is with the emotions, the moon sign. The moon is exalted in Taurus. And I have said on numerous occasions that I'm not quite sure why. I think I read something recently about that. On the surface or on face value, I would say it probably has something to do with Taurus being a fixed sign and being an earth sign. So there might be stability that the moon can really anchor itself into and make the person more on an even keel. Because, you get a certain moon sign, like maybe the moon in Aries, and the person is very volatile and they're a powder keg. Or maybe the moon in Pisces, they tend to be very maybe melancholy or otherwise a sense of, bestowing love on a person who is not necessarily deserving of it in a personal relationship. Maybe they're deserving of it as a fellow human being, but beyond that, the person may not be a good fit. And so with Pisces, there can be a lot of relationship illusions that are the moon in Pisces, I should say. But yeah, the moon in Taurus is very solid. And so let's talk about what the sun in Libra represents. The sun is our aspirational self. So it's how we choose to shine our light in this world. And shining one's light is how we would describe a particular career, a particular service that you're offering to other people. It's because you feel like you really have the goods to deliver, that you can make somebody, you can better someone's life with the talents that you have. Sometimes people are trying to be something that they're not. And they end up, it's not just about being inauthentic, but they're not going to really put their all into it because they're just not coming from a genuine place. So if you are more of an artistic type of person and you're trying to do the whole linear route, you could wake up one day and be very unhappy that you chose to take the easy way out. Maybe you were afraid that you couldn't make a living being an artist or make a living being a, I don't know, maybe like a healer or something like that, I always focus on those two occupations because they are, I think, a lot of what star seeds gravitate towards. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it seems like there are, an inordinate amount of healers in the spiritual community these days that, call themselves healers, like they're either doing it for a living or they want to do it for a living. And they have these kinds of gifts from way back. But this is a world that is very, loud, and it can drown out your inner voice. So, the only thing that I would say is to welcome any influence that comes into your life, in that you are going to at least listen to the person. You're not just going to dismiss them because you don't agree with their take on things, because sometimes people do that, and really the reason they're doing that is because they don't want to believe that they have more choices. That's personally what I think. They may have reasons why they say they're not interested in hearing from someone who is doing something that is outside of the box. But I think sometimes it's like, because it ignites their heart and then it confuses them because maybe they don't know exactly what it is they want to do. So if that is you, then it's like the Buddha says, like, then your job is to find out what your job is. meaning your own personal mission. And if a person is able to work, even if they have been maybe just going through the motions, that can be a great source of information. So different types of work, and not necessarily for something permanent. You know, it's really not the job that you're doing, it's what you're bringing to that job. People can be, some people might end up being like actual healers, like energy workers, let's say, but maybe they start out working retail, but they have it's like holding space or kind of giving those healing vibes in that environment to customers and coworkers. And people can sense your peace, they can sense the good vibes emanating from you, and it still is doing the job that you came here to do. So, people, I think, get too hung up on the exact job title instead of looking at, okay, what do you feel that you came here to do? So, anyway, Libra is a sign because it is an air sign that is very, tends to be very intelligent. The intellect is strong. And Libra, because it is ruled by Venus, has a gracious demeanor. So the person can come across to others in a favorable way. And this has its own benefits. This can make the person find it easy to just get hired altogether. But you may gravitate towards things like being a lawyer because Libra can see all sides of a situation. You might be interested in education, having that fine mind. But again, with the beauty angle, with Venus as the ruler, there may be a desire to beautify this world. Maybe it's through being a makeup artist or a beautician, or I don't know, if you have artistic skills, a graphic designer, those kinds of things can be very appealing. Libra believes in fairness, fair play. So whatever it is that you want to do, you may be trying to make the world a better place. With the moon in Taurus, there is, I would say, a love of, I would say like a sensual side to you. So this sometimes can lead a person to do things that are the most self-indulgent in a sense, kind of taking the easiest route to get to where you want. And this is not necessarily a bad thing because this double Venus influence can lead to a comfortable life. But if you are there, this is where the conflict may come in. Now, these signs don't square each other, but there can still be this, aspect to yourself that is torn between craving a certain ease in your life and wanting to make things more equitable. And so, and the money angle, like both of these signs being ruled by Venus, this is not going to escape you because, like I said, it could be materialistic. So if you're the kind of person who gets offered some kind of a nonprofit type of job, and you kind of hesitate because you'll have to, live on ramen noodles, you might feel guilty about that because you feel like you should be able to do what is right, even if it means that it's not financially lucrative. And so that might be a conflict within yourself, that desire for the easy, easy street, or the easy life. And in terms of love, but let me just say the kind of work, I would say with anything that involves artistic appreciation, even if you're not, you don't consider yourself to be talented in this area, you still may find that you want to do things that bring that appreciation. Like, let's say music appreciation, you become a music teacher. And some people might gravitate towards an artistic career. Also, anything to do with teaching, with Libra, anything to do with the intellect. And with the moon in Taurus, you just have a very steady nature. So you would be a natural for an environment like a school, because you wouldn't get, both air, you wouldn't get, I was going to say, I should finish my sentences. You wouldn't get riled up necessarily, because air and earth are not as emotional as water and fire. So they tend to be more on an even keel, but especially Taurus. So, and you will be very reliable. So that's good for working for somebody else where you need to be reliable. I was going to say, I don't have to be reliable, but everybody has to be reliable to one degree or another, but I think you know what I mean. So anyway, I wanted to talk about romance, because this is a biggie with this combination. You're very romantic. You might be more jealous than the typical Libra. Libra is not a jealous sign, because an air sign is not a sign that believes in ownership of other people. It just doesn't. It doesn't feel like that's its place, is to look at other people as its property. However, you have the moon in Taurus, and Taurus is very possessive. Taurus rules the second house of possession, so it only stands to reason that Taurus would have a propensity for anything related to possessions, including people, making people your possessions. So the bottom line is that a person with this combination definitely needs to honor their intellectual side. I say this a lot, and I wonder if people think I'm strange for saying this, but I feel that a lot of people, it's commonplace, oh, I'm attracted to this person. I like the way that they look, or I like the way that they dress, things like that. I remember my father telling me once that his mother, who was my grandmother, he asked his mother, like, why she married his father, and she said, I liked the way he dressed. And he always thought that was, I don't know if he thought it was strange or unusual, but people actually do things like that, believe it or not. I think now I know where I get certain qualities that I have. Not about that particular issue, but just basic personality quirks. And so being able as a Libra to look beneath the surface, I know that there are Libra people that are not shallow. I'm not saying that. But with the moon in Taurus, Taurus is the first earth sign. It's only the second sign of the zodiac. And there is like a young soul quality to Taurus that is actually quite refreshing. But in matters of the heart, a Taurus person can be, um, I was going to say basic, in the sense that they may like look at love almost as a commodity. And I'm not saying that this would happen with every Taurus person, so don't freak out if you're not like that. And I was really talking about the sun in Taurus, but I think that the moon in Taurus can have a lot of those same qualities, and also Venus in Taurus, because that's the way that you love. And because your sun is in Libra, you cannot have Taurus as your Venus sign, but you can have Libra as your Venus sign, and that could make you very, like almost like the type of person that you're attracted to is the kind of person who dresses a certain way, looks a certain way, acts a certain way. And while that is not, that doesn't necessarily mean anything bad, it could be quite shallow. It could mean that the person is not placing enough importance on the inner qualities. How is this person's wisdom, their spiritual, like, aptitude? What is their intellect like? Can you talk to this person? Can you have long conversations with this person? Do you feel like you're humoring this person in terms of, how they are intellectually? I just don't understand, because you're going to be spending a lot of time with such a person that if you're looking for a long-term relationship, and I know that people with this combination are looking for long-term relationships by and large, that you are doing so mindfully, that you're not doing so with a certain type of superficial aspect to yourself, where you're not seeing the other person as being your, you know, I was going to say your better half, but I'll just say your other half. Libra people really like to do couple things because you rule the house, the seventh house of couples. So you love being in relationships where you can do things with people and you're always, whatever, doing this and doing that. And if you're with someone who you don't share the same types of interests, how is that going to happen? You're not going to see eye to eye, and you already, so the point is that you have to give a lot of importance to compatibility, instead of just what somebody looks like. Oh, this person is gorgeous. Because you will see, I have to say, I have seen plenty of Libra people who their partner is very attractive, at least to them, and maybe elegant or what have you. And that becomes like a very important value to them. But it's not, and not ultimately. That's just the surface. And the things that, because you are an intellectual person, you need that stimulation from the person that you're spending so much time with and that you like to do things with. And so having somebody who is cultured, who can appreciate that side of life, I feel like is very important. The moon in Taurus can have it's almost like a primitive way of feeling. It's like the other person is, they have ownership of that person. And that when people tend to, usually we see this with men saying to women, or saying to, this is my woman. This is, but women can do the same thing. My wife, my husband, it's like my property. And you're very consistent, you're very loyal in your affections, you're very sensual. So the thing is, you have to be careful with sex because that could make you much more confused as to whether or not your relationship is really good. Because if the sex is good, you may think that you're in love. You may think that this is your soulmate and it's a one-dimensional relationship and you don't realize it yet because you're still in that kind of euphoric state. And then you scratching your head and going, what happened to our great love affair that never really was? You never really had what you thought you had. I'm not saying that this is how it would go down. You may find, your man or woman of your dreams and have a wonderful relationship. I'm not saying you couldn't. But the only thing that I am saying is that you have to be aware of how somebody matches up in more than just one area. And the other thing, too, is not placing so much emphasis on this area of life that you are codependent, that you are a serial monogamist where you break up with someone and you have to have somebody waiting in the wings. You can never be alone. Those kinds of things, if you find that you have patterns in this area, really, do some deep inquiry. Don't act like it's not important, because you may find that it's a very important thing for you is to admit that your relationship isn't what you thought it was, or to just be alone for a while and to learn more about yourself, because you might have that tendency to be like, I don't really like being alone. I want to have somebody with me. And it could be the very best thing that you could do for yourself. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated, or at least some of it. As I was talking, I was thinking, I wonder if I'm digging myself a hole here. Some of the things I said about the moon in Taurus. Because like I said, the moon in Taurus is exalted. So anyway, if you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.